Do you want to do the intro?
No. That is the intro.
Hello and welcome back to the Claret podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, returning after my 2-week holiday, joined by John Townley at Poddymore Heath, Birmingham-based studio space. John, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks, Dan. I want to know about your voyage across the Mediterranean. How was it?
It was good, yeah. It was really nice, very warm. Not as warm as this studio is at the moment, which is crazy. It's so hot in here. But yeah, really nice. Saw some nice places, had some nice food. I've said to a couple of people that it's not a holiday in the sense of how you would maybe go on holiday and relax for 2 weeks, because I was just parenting in different locations. It's very I've got to do this at this time and this at this time. And, so a little bit stressful in places. 2 weeks was a long time with a toddler, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, nice to have a break, nice to switch my phone off and kind of forget about everything. Yeah. One thing that's actually nice from a football perspective and something that we don't often get to get, especially in the industry that we're in, is kind of the absence of news. And when you do find out something, like, you know, Fabrizio Romano now tweets something 1 million times and we know something's happening well in advance. You know, we're consumed by this thing, whereas we had like a TV in our room that had Sky Sports, so you know, at the end of every day or whatever, I'd just quickly flick it on and just see what the headlines were, and it's like Aston Villa complete move for Timo Rabuna, and I was like, whoa, okay, what? Knowing something as it's already done was a strange kind of nice thing to have, to just be like, okay, this has happened, that's all I know about it, and move on away from it.
I always thought that, like, what if someone just told you what happened at the end of a transfer window? It's similar to that kind of, I know some people, which is strange, but they don't watch any football during the day, but they only watch Match of the Day. Everything,
you don't know the results.
They have no idea,
they're
clueless. That would be impossible to do, I think, over a transfer window unless you just turned your phone off like 3 months, so that's not going to happen. But not
great for the podcast either.
Different perspective.
So nice to be back. Nice to be back involved talking about Aston Villa. I've got a list here of things that happened whilst I was away that I'm literally just going to read out. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of these, but just kind of summarise the last couple of weeks. There was a new hospitality offering launched called The Cells, which was sold out in a week. Interesting name. Nassef Sawiris seeked, is that the word? Sought. The past tense of seeks.
In this sense,
Nassef Sawiris sought legal advice on whether to lodge a formal complaint against the Premier League's PSR rules. Douglas Luiz to Juventus with Iling-Junior and McKennie coming the other way. Then McKennie doesn't happen. Then it's a lad called Enzo Barrenchea instead. Chelsea are linked with a move for John Duran. Chelsea make background checks and call their interest on John Duran. Coutinho's contract is terminated, although not officially announced, and a move to Vasco is on the cards. Leon Bailey is in the Jamaica squad. Leon Bailey doesn't want to be in the Jamaica squad. Villa agree a deal for Ian Maatsen from Chelsea. Chelsea agree a deal for Amari Kellerman from Villa. The fixtures are released. Woo! We play everybody twice. Home and away.
When they came out, I was thinking, I really want to do a podcast. Because I thought of different things, just bits in between. I love it. I absolutely love fixture release day. But then if I knew I did it with you, you would have just said, so
we play everyone twice. Yeah, well, it's technically true.
Boring.
The Adidas kit is still not announced yet and will be launched at the end of the Euros. From an interview with Chris Heck. Everton agree a deal for Tim Irabunum. Villa agree a deal for Everton's Lewis Dobbin. Premier League fans accuse Chelsea, Everton and Villa of cheating. Everyone hates us. We don't care. That's what's happened in the last 2 weeks. Is that a fair assessment of what I missed? Quite a lot's happened.
Yeah, I mean, Tim and Lewis, Irabunum and Dobbin have signed for Everton and Villa, so yeah, that's kind of the update on that one. But I think that's basically everything. I don't think there's anything else major that you've missed. I mean, that's quite a lot, to be fair.
It is a lot.
I was going to say it's a good time to take a break, because if you were doing all, it's been hectic for the last 2 weeks, but at the same time, missing all of that in our job isn't ideal. So that's why we're here, to catch up.
Yeah, basically. So from today's shoot, if you like, for us, this will obviously be split up into a couple of podcasts on the channel. Today's episode is going to be purely about Douglas Luiz, Iling-Junior and Barrenchea, the kind of Italian job, if you like, is what we're going to discuss in this episode. We're then going to talk about the domestic transfers, so the Dobbin, Irabunum, Maatsen, Duran,
Barkley,
yeah, those kind of domestic in-house Premier League transfers. Yeah. Kellerman, that will be in a second episode that we film in here, but we'll split up into probably tomorrow's show. We're also going to do something looking at like Villa's squad depth and the options that they've got as well, which will be out later in the week.
Which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, I do as well. I actually think this has been a really interesting window so far from the little bits that I've seen. Part of me wanted to do like the incomings as an episode and the outgoings as an episode, but they're so interlinked that the swap deals and the same clubs completing moves. I think can't do that.
Start with Luiz. Start with the outgoing.
Let's start with Luiz, and that's the big deal of the summer, I suppose. The one that makes Villa PSR compliant. The one that we'd kind of felt was maybe going to be happening for a while. Something that Villa have been prepared for a while. Somebody that when we've answered questions about who's going to go if there is to be a big sale, Luiz is always the one we've kind of steered towards as feeling like an obvious one because he's not had a new contract before. He is a quick sale to make. Juventus is not a location that I thought he would end up at. If you'd have asked me 3 or 4 months ago, I didn't see him moving to a European league. I thought he might go to another Premier League side because of the fee involved. Yep. But then the fee involved is not what we expected. It's not an £80 million transfer. It's this kind of broken down deal.
Yeah, well, it's £50 million as one, €50 million as one deal, and then a separate deal is the incomings, which we'll get on to. But we did say weeks ago that Villa have to find a player that firstly they're willing to sell for the right money, but also a player who is going to attract interest before the end of the month, and that for me was the big thing. Are Arsenal going to essentially help Villa? No, unless Villa were to maybe buy some of their players. But then do Arsenal need to sell their players to be PSR compliant? I don't think so. I don't know exactly what Juve's situation was in terms of their financial position, and because obviously it's different rules over in Italy. But obviously us buying 2 of their players helps us because we get 2 players for a good fee, those 2 players. But we've kind of helped each other in a way because, as I said, Villa can't just sell Luiz to a club for any price because that club just wouldn't want to help. Why would they? Especially if they're in the Premier League. So it had to be... well, it didn't have to be, but very likely it was going to be a team in Europe because of what I've just said there, and obviously that limits the teams that can purchase him because there isn't a lot of money in Europe. So we've had to help Juve to help buy Luiz, essentially. And then it's worked the other way as well. They've helped us because we needed to sell Luiz, and also we've got a good fee and 2 good players as well. 2 players that can grow and improve, and that's Villa's strategy, long-term strategy at the moment, especially because of PSR. It's to bring these younger players in, Morgan Rogers and Neveljkovic, anyone else that you want to mention that we've signed that's of that profile, they can then improve under Emery, and then if needs be because of PSR, because it's not going to be going away for a little while yet, then Villa can select which players they want to sell. We're not a selling club, but clearly Luiz is an example. Villa prepared for his sale 18 months ago. Tielemans was the first player that they obviously signed because of the Luiz situation. So they identified Luiz basically after going through the different ages of the squad, contract lengths, etc. They're going to the point then with Luiz a year ago where it was either, well, we either give him a new contract or do we cash in at his peak market value, which is also something that we were saying, if he's got 2 years left, and now is probably the right time to sell him if they have to, which they did. So it was always going to be Luiz when you break it down, but it's interesting how Villa have prepared for that for a very long time, a year and a half. Tielemans is the first player to come in on a free, and now Barkley as well, 2 players that are going to be or can play in Luiz's position. So 5 million cost between them in terms of on the books and transfer fees, and then they've got €50 million from Luiz. So I think, all things considered, I think Villa have done very well. Do you think
there'll be another midfielder signed as well, though?
Possibly so. I think
you kind of talk about Tielemans as a replacement for Luiz, but you won't see it as that because he was already here.
Yeah, so when I say that, I don't mean it's a direct replacement. I mean it's 2 players in his position. If Villa don't sign another midfielder, which I think is unlikely, I think they will go after either Gallagher or Onana or other players in that role because they need... Well, because they can. Yes, they're PSR compliant now and they can't go crazy because then next summer they're going to be tight again if they do that. So, they'll have a plan for that. But of course, there's doubts over Duran, other players. Villa will continue to raise money over the summer, and it's about how do you, go about replacing those players. And Luiz, I think you're right. I don't think Barkley is a like for like replacement in terms of quality. Certainly a very good player that's going to, I think prove to be a shrewd signing. Him and Tielemans in that position, plus 50 million euros, that's about as good as Villa can do, I think. And again, that's testament to Villa because they've planned it over 18 months. If Villa just sold Luiz this summer and they didn't have Tielemans, and Barkley wasn't necessarily on the radar, they'd have sold Luiz for 50, and now they'll be scrambling around to sign someone for whatever price. And Tielemans, by the way, probably is like a £40 million player, right? Yeah. So they'd be then signing a £40 million player, and there'd be net 10 million, which is like, okay, but this is so much better because they're planned. So I think that's the key thing. And
it's what a smart club would do. This is what a big club acts as. They prepare for these eventualities that these PSR problems, as you say, aren't going to go away. Villa now can go and spend 500 million. They just effectively move the goalposts further down the line. This problem still exists, but just not right for here and now. But further down the line, it will rear its ugly head again until Villa have to either massively increase their revenue, which is going to take a long time to do that, and Villa have to be successful on the pitch for those things to happen. Or they sell somebody else further down the line. They turn Iling-Junior from a 9.5 million signing or whatever it technically is to a 30 million sale in 2 years' time, or that kind of thing. It's that development process, isn't it?
Precisely that, and that's why Monchi and Damian Vidigani, who are basically the two that are working, say, alongside Emery. Emery, of course, is involved, but he doesn't want the...
He's had a bit of time off himself, hasn't he, Emery?
Well, yeah, and he's been in constant dialogue as well, obviously. But it's almost like a triangle of power between Nassef Sawiris, Damian and Monchi. They're the footballing decisions, and Emery, of course, if he wants to sign a player, who is anyone to say no? But in terms of those big decisions, preparing nearly 2 years down the line, that's comes to Monchi, Damian, those decisions, and obviously their support staff as well. So Villa are in really capable hands, and that's why we keep saying that even though yes they have to sell Luiz, we'll be in a strong place come the end of the window anyway. And when we do our squad depth analysis as such, it's really exciting, I think, because there's seriously a lot of quality there, and you almost think, well, can Villa's injuries be as bad as last season? We'll find out, hopefully not, but touch wood. Let's say I doubt it, then there's a lot of depth there. There's the bench as well. It's a very stacked team, so we're in a really good position. And considering we've just had to make the sale and we've had to raise money to be PSR compliant, to be in the position we are in now, I think is very strong.
I think that's kind of gone under the radar, this conversation, that sale for Douglas Luiz, when it eventually goes through, as we're recording this, it hasn't all been officially confirmed via club statements and stuff, but it's going to happen at some point.
By the end of the week.
This week,
needs to be,
But as of Wednesday, the 26th of June, Villa are not going to be in trouble from the Premier League. They're not going to get points deductions. They're not going to get transfer embargoes or whatever. They are now in the green, if you like, for that deal. We'll talk about what that means for Irabunum, Kellerman, Dobbin in the second video that we do, because selling Kellerman for 19 million looks like, well, they're doing that because of PSR. Well, they are in a roundabout way, but not for now. It'll be great for next year's books.
That is the key thing that, to be fair, we'll mention quickly, because there is a lot of noise and a lot of, as you said previously, like, accusations are such a flying around that, but, and we won't go into too much, but that is a key point, that Villa are PSR compliant with the Luiz sale. Kellyman, of course, looks good on the books because he's an academy player, but they're not doing it to avoid a points deduction. They're doing it because £20 million for an 18-year-old is decent money.
Yeah, very decent. I'm not going to ask you as of now whether you think this deal for Luiz, Barrenchea and Iling-Junior is a good deal, a good transfer, because the proof is in the pudding, right? There's two youngsters there that may not have a great impact next season, but they might the year after. Douglas Luiz might go to Juventus and not do very well, and we'll think, we kind of cashed in at the right time. So many different moving parts to whether that is a good deal or not. But do you think the process has been good? Because I think some people will, maybe rightly or wrongly, look at the way the deal has been structured. That, and again, I don't want to put words into people's mouths, but it kind of like, well, it was supposed to be Weston McKennie, and then it wasn't, and now who's this kid? And kind of Juventus just throwing their rejects at us. If Juventus want to sell them, does that mean they're not very good? Like, how do you oversee kind of the process that's happened?
Yeah, well, from what I've read in the Italian media, which isn't like the best perspective on anything.
Did you read it in Italian, or was it translated?
It was translated, yeah. But there seems to be the train of thought that actually Barrenechea, if that's how you say it,
Enzo.
Is Enzo, yeah, Enzo, God. Trying to thought that Enzo was in Moss's plans and that Juve didn't want to sell him. But because the deal kind of fell on this kind of latest request by Villa, because McKennie was the first one that Juve were happy to sell, Villa were happy to buy, and there was a lot said about McKennie, and yes, he's not a player anymore, and a lot of Villa fans will probably be thankful of that, but I'm not one of them. I think he would have been a good addition. He would have been versatile. It doesn't matter now, but
people saw that he wasn't very good at Leeds and thought, that's a concern there.
But Monchi wanted him, so I think he would have been fine for us. But anyway, after that one, where talks stalled, didn't progress, then Villa obviously asked for other players. Saul, I think is how you say his name, who's like Enzo's best mate at Argentina, teammates, or they were. I think Saul's now in the first team, is like more of an attacking player. They want 40 million for him though, and he could go this summer, but it wasn't something that they wanted to put in the deal because it didn't add up financially.
Yeah.
But Juventus wanted to buy Luiz. They also wanted to sell 2 players to match the deal up for them, so they couldn't just walk away from it. After McKennie stalled, they needed to give Villa someone else. So in a roundabout way, maybe we've got the better end of the deal in terms of Juventus didn't want to sell Barrenechea first, or apparently not anyway. Motta wanted to take him into his plans and look at him properly because he's
had a good season last year,
impressed at Frosinone, and he's clearly a very good player. He's not 18, he's not 19, he's 23, so he's not young, but players develop at different rates, as we all know. So yeah, I'm happy with the deal, and I think the process, as you say, has been very good because 18 months planning this is, and yes, while Villa didn't get the man that they wanted in the first place, I don't think this is a case of us just kind of going through the players and we landed at the 5th choice. I actually think it's probably much more complex than that, with that Juve didn't want to sell him but then realised, okay, we're just going to have to give him in.
It almost works the other way around, isn't it? It's not that Villa are going through kind of Juventus's rejects, for want of a better word, but it's that you're in order of almost who Juventus don't want to sell. They were more prepared to let McKennie go,
exactly
rather
what I'm trying to say.
Rather than going, McKennie's no good, who's further down the rung, it's almost you could argue it's the reverse of that they're kind of going down their list of who they don't want to lose.
What's it called? As the timeline went on, the pressure ramped up, should we say? Negotiations were to the point
so badly, you kind of have to weigh up both ends.
Exactly. They know that they've got Barrenechea there that they can sell and that fits the profile for what Villa want, etc., etc. The finances work out, but they didn't want him to let him go. McKennie can't happen. Okay, we're just gonna have to give them Barrenechea, and then it works out. So yeah, I'm more than happy with the deal. It's not something where Villa were given kind of 2 players that Juve didn't want. That's not technically yes, but because there's reason, they obviously wanted to keep Iling-Junior and Enzo as well, but financially it works out for them to get Luiz. They had to raise a bit of money, sell those players, but then buy Luiz as well. They've got a fantastic player in him, so I think it kind of worked out for everyone in the end.
It's strange, isn't it, kind of seeing him go to a European rival, because traditionally you just go, well, it doesn't matter because we're never going to play each other.
Rival, yeah.
If it's to a different Premier League club, you're kind of always in that same world as them. You're always seeing Douglas Luiz on Match of the Day for Tottenham or whoever, thinking, well, there's somebody that we're kind of competing with throughout a 38 league season. We may not face Juventus in the Champions League, but we are in the same competition that we may see them cross over at some points, and that will be strange. But traditionally, you'd have just gone, get him to Europe because we won't need to contend with that. We'll never see Douglas Luiz again. Whereas that is now a thing that could happen. But I would still rather see him go to Syria than Spurs or Arsenal or Chelsea.
And that's like another kind of element to this, why it's a good move for everyone, because we didn't want to see him play for a Premier League team, but I do feel like that was kind of out of our hands anyway, because no one would want to help us in the Premier League to buy Luiz. Yes, a good player.
He's going to go to Everton.
For €50 million of 40, what would that be, £45 million, something like that? That would represent good value if Arsenal wanted to sign him. But that didn't happen. Villa were happy to deal with Juve and get, as I say, 2 very exciting players that fit their model as well. They wouldn't be selling to Juventus if they gave them 2 players that they didn't want. That's not going to happen. There'd be another suitor. Villa could do the deal in a different way. So, happy with it.
So we obviously know everything about Douglas Luiz. We know what we're losing out on. I actually read a book whilst I was away from Josh Williams, a colleague of ours. It's a Liverpool book, but it was about using data in football and how football clubs have started to use it more over the last, 20 years or so. And Liverpool are like the pioneers of using data, massive analysis department, miles ahead of many others. Dropping your phone.
Shorts again.
And basically there was a kind of overarching point in that, talking about how a player transfer affects a club's goal difference, basically, and that was how they were measuring in terms of success, that bringing Van Dijk in is going to improve Liverpool's goal difference straight away in the sense that they're going to concede 20 less goals. He's going to play out from the back and help contribute to 5 goals. He'll score from corners. There's a very rough kind of idea. He will make Liverpool's goal difference better by X amount and kind of ranking transfers off that.
Yep.
We know that we're losing output from Douglas Luiz as well. Scored goals, got assists. So how do you replace that? Is it a straight swap that Barrenchea comes in, plays 35 games, scores 10 goals? Yeah, great. Like a straight swap. That worked out brilliantly, didn't it? Yeah. But it's not as simple as that. No. So what are we getting from Juventus, from these two players specifically? What is their impact? Will Iling-Junior come in and play games every week? Will Barrenchea start straight away? What is their impact on Villa's goal difference next year, basically?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because it's exactly that. Villa are losing a player who's very technical, who can play from the back, etc. But also, if you break it down, it's goals and assists that we are going to be losing, and quite a lot of them.
Penalties.
So that's exactly. So that's why, you asked earlier, are Villa done with midfielders? I don't think they are. That's why I think so. There'll be another midfielder coming in, or why Villa would at least be looking to do that sort of deal, because they are going to be losing out there. And yes, Barkley can come in. I think he's more of a depth signing, if I'm being totally honest. I don't think Villa are signing him to be a player that replaces Luiz, but we've gone over that. Iling-Junior, left-sided player, can operate at left wing back, obviously a left wing as well, very powerful runner. Obviously I can't confess to watching him every week, but in terms of what I have seen, certainly a player who can adapt to the Premier League quite quickly, physically, tactically, working Juventus. Obviously it was the Chelsea academy, but quite a young age, so not too much that I don't think you can kind of take from that. But we know that Emery improves players. My question with Iling-Junior is, how does he break into the team? And that's because I don't know, because I'm not Emery. Because as far as
the left side looks very, we're going to talk about this in the videos that we're doing. The left side looks very strong in terms of left back at the moment. Dean and Moreno, Maatsen will be there as well.
Yeah.
The left-sided attacking player with Ramsey, Rodgers, Buendia.
And that's where my again, we'll go on to a video on this, but Ramsey, firstly, Iling-Junior is a different profile to those players. That must be said. He's more traditional, shall I say. He'll beat a player across the ball. Left-sided, as I say, Ramsey and Rodgers will drift inside. They could combine with a striker. Iling-Junior would do that in different ways. So it's nice to have different profiles, and that's what Emery has always said that he wants. But do I see him starting games above Ramsey, Rodgers? It's just Buendia's coming back. Even Tielemans can play on that left side. Yeah. It's a lot of competition there. So I do wonder, will he be used more so as a defensive player? Maatsen coming in is not good.
I was going to say the opposite. I was like, could he play second striker?
Yeah, Maatsen coming in, again, we'll discuss this in different videos, but he won't. He will be used as well as a winger who can a wing back that can get high and wide, but also that can invert. Iling-Junior can certainly do one of those things. I don't know about the inverting stuff, but whether Villa do that or not, I don't know. But there's definitely scope for him to contribute in attacks, but I just don't think it's a player that will be able to start many games yet. And he is young, he's 20, which is the same age as Duran, same age as Tim. So I don't think he's going to Villa and expecting to play games straight away. But of course, this leaves another question of, well, if he plays as a left back, then that's a lot of development to do. Does Dean and Moreno go? Because then you technically have 2 left backs anyway, Maatsen and Iling-Junior. Is Iling-Junior ready? Can we depend on him if Maatsen gets injured? There's a lot of question marks there, so it feels almost like...
Very exciting, isn't it, all this?
It's very stacked, and I don't want this to sound negative, but it almost feels like we've got a spare player in Iling-Junior, someone that has clearly got a lot of potential, but it's hard to figure out exactly where he's going to fit in right now. But again, Emery has a plan for him, so maybe this time in 12 months we'll be thinking or saying, oh, he had a great impact in these games and he's clearly this, and he can step up to become that. I think that's what we'll be looking at. It's not someone who's going to come in and make an instant impact. Maybe he does, but that would then mean Rodgers and Ramsey step out, and Buendia and Mats has just been signed. So there's a lot of competition there, but it's okay. He's 20.
For Enzo, obviously coming in as part of the Luiz deal, not in terms of he's won him, but you know what I mean. Is he more of a Kamara understudy? Yeah, and we've been saying this for so long that Villa needs someone who's going to come in to start the season.
Replace
not that I'm saying Kamara. Enzo will start the season, but Kamara's not going to be available for the first couple of months. Enzo will have opportunities.
Yeah, in an ideal world, to be honest, I'd want a more experienced head in there, someone that could come in for Kamara, and they know they're not playing every week, but they can do a very solid job, and you know what you're getting. But I'm more than happy to see Enzo improve, hopefully, and show great signs at Frosinone last season. Of all under 23 players in the European's top 5 leagues last season, he was at the top for all the numbers that you'd want in a holding midfielder: interceptions, tackles, passing accuracy, forward passes as well. So there's clearly a lot there that Villa can work with and that Emery can work with. But again, Premier League football is a different kettle of fish. He's played in the Serie A for one season. He's obviously had appearances elsewhere for Juve, but that was his first full campaign in senior football. So I'm not going to give him any sort of criticism or anything like that. We saw Luiz when he first came to Villa and he made a mistake, I think, on his home debut against Bournemouth. They scored, but then he scored from like 30 yards, and it was like, okay, well, the kid's got something, let's just bear with him. And I don't think a lot of people did bear with him in the end. And then all of a sudden he becomes a player who we think, when he's on his best form, is at £100 million. So Barrenechea, we need to bear with. Hopefully he can hit the ground running, and whether he starts the first game of the season, I don't know. We'll see how it goes in pre-season, but I wouldn't be surprised if Emery keeps the kind of Tielemans, Luiz, Tielemans, Miggin, Tielemans, Barkley, that sort of feel to a Premier League experience, especially against West Ham. I mean, you need experienced players there, and Barrenechea, yes, he's got all the attributes and he's got a good stature about him. I think over 6 foot. I'm excited by it, but one that we'll have to be patient with, I think.
I think it's a really interesting deal. I've not really obviously caught up on much of the kind of fan feeling towards stuff in terms of social media or YouTube comments. I think there will be some kind of anticipation of, not anticipation, that's the wrong word, but kind of
expectancy.
No, in the opposite way, that we've kind of been shafted a little bit, that we know Douglas Luiz is very good, but this kid from Italy who's had one season in Serie A, like he said, he's going to be good enough to play for us. Like, we think Douglas Luiz is worth 100 million, we're only getting 50, and Juventus is cast off. So I think there'll be that kind of attitude.
I've already seen people, I don't mean Villa outsiders, I mean we're outsiders, but you know what I mean, say that Villa have replaced Luiz with Barrenechea. No, we haven't.
No.
That's just not true. This has been 18 months of work in the pipeline sort of thing, and Barrenechea is just a player that we think that can improve the squad and become a top player in time, and won't be playing where, he won't be playing alongside Kamara in any normal game like Luiz would have. It's just not the case. So it's a player that we've recruited like Iling-Junior, that at the moment you think, well, is he going to start? Probably not. Where exactly is he going to fit? We'll find out. They're question marks, but when Monchi and Emery are the ones that have got the answers to it, I'm happy. It's fine.
Well, we all often say, don't we, that it's kind of trusting Emery, and if they think this is the right thing to do, then go with it. You then can't kind of throw your toys out the pram when you think,
exactly.
But not, like the Weston McKennie stuff, there was a lot of kind of,
this is
he's
my
not
point.
the right thing. But if we're going to trust Emery, but not him though, not that one. But you've got to just fully go for it, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and he played very well in Serie A last season anyway, McKennie, and won't go on about him anymore. But happy with the deal. Enzo as well. Everyone he's worked with, like Juve coaches, Frosinone, they all speak very highly of him. They liken him, and I don't know if this is like a European thing that they liken players and compare them to other players, but I've heard Rodri, Rijkaard, all those players. No pressure, mate.
Right, let's call it a day for this video. Kind of the Serie A look at the
Italian job,
the Italian job.
Like
Enzo, Iling-Junior and Luiz all covered in a broad aspect. There's obviously lots of question marks still remaining over what their impact will be, but those are things that we're not going to know for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, where we can see what impact they've got. If the only thing that Iling-Junior does for Villa is he becomes a £20 million sale from a £10 million signing, then in a roundabout way, that's kind of what some parts of football now need you to do from a business perspective. But you sign these players for potential. You've got one of the best coaches in world football to develop that. we could be talking about Iling-Junior and Enzo as being unbelievable Premier League footballers for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and flip it another way. And again, this isn't negative because of what we've just talked about. It's positive in terms of we've sold Luiz, but we've got 50 million, 45 million out of it, plus 2 good players, and we've already started to replace him. I'm not saying this is the case, but if we were to sell Kamara in 18 months, shall I say, and Enzo develops into the way that we want him to, there's your Kamara replacement, plus your money. That's how it works in football, the top level. And again, hopefully Villa's revenue in 3 years, as Hex says, will match the big six, so we don't have to be in a situation where we're constantly thinking about, in 2 years' time, will we have to do this to the team or that, and we can kind of just do our thing. But while that is a concern, we do have to forward plan, and that is a key part of the recruitment strategy.
And the short term is that, as you say at the very start, we are now PSR compliant, that we can kind of loosen the purse strings ever so slightly from the 1st of July, that you'll see certain deals start to go through because they are next year's books and things like that. It's kind of a, am I a football fan or am I an accountant? It's a little bit of both, isn't it, these days?
Yeah, and I think for as long as we have the football department that we have, I don't think we'll ever be in a situation, or I hope not anyway, where we'll sell a player and everyone will lose their heads and it'll be like, oh, what are we going to do now? Because we would have seen, 18 months ago this happened, and we've now got this player coming through. It's that sort of thing. We're not going to sell, I hope not anyway, Martinez, and all of a sudden we're thinking, right, what keeper do we sign next? There's always going to be a plan there, and there's going to be a reason why things happen. We're not just going to do things willy-nilly. So I'm absolutely fine with where the club's going, and yes, it's frustrating, but there's no one else that I'd want kind of guiding us through it.
We'll call it a day for this one. John, thanks for your time and insight as ever. If you've enjoyed this episode, then leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts down below on YouTube as well. There's a comments box on Spotify. If you enjoyed the episode, you can let us know your thoughts there as well. John, it's good to be back. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks for watching or listening. Come back tomorrow where we'll be talking Premier League transfers, the Everton and Chelsea scandals, if you like. So come back then. We'll see you on the next one.